Hello, everyone. Hello. I'm gonna put on some chapstick. Don't laugh at me. It's okay. You can laugh if you want to. Oh, I hate watching myself tick. Anyway, hello. This is my family. Anyway, family means no one gets left behind. Sphinx. Except for Sphinx. Sphinx gets left behind. Hey guys, so I wanted to make another episode of this vlogging podcasting series. I know I get a lot of the same frequently asked questions on my live streams, so I did want to take a moment to kind of address a couple of those. Sorry, my ticks are acting up more tonight. I don't know why exactly. I feel like they were calmer yesterday, but that is okay because we will deal with it somehow. My name is Kali. Welcome to KaliiVlogs. This is going to be a vlogging / podcasting series. So a lot of these frequently asked questions that I am going to be answering today are a bit Tourette's centric. I get a lot of questions regarding Tourette syndrome. Apparently a lot of people are curious about it. And I was actually kind of surprised at how many questions I get. So over time, I kind of noticed that a couple of these questions seem to be popping up pretty regularly. And by regularly, I mean some of these get asked like 50 times in the same stream. I'm going to start off in order of sort of chronologically, or rather addressing some of the questions that are all encompassing to kind of give a little bit of backstory about Tourette syndrome itself and my experience with it. One of the questions I very frequently get is, when did your tics start, or at what age did my tics start presenting at? I was 3 years old when I started developing both vocal and motor tics. One of my earliest vocal tics was a screaming vocal tic. So I had a screaming vocal tic, kind of hard to miss that. My mom noticed that one very quickly. I would randomly shriek at random times. I'd be playing and I would just do these little like sudden outburst of this shrieking, screaming, and it would happen every so often. I would just be doing my thing and then I would just go, ah, like really loud. My mom took me to see a doctor not long after they started. The doctor basically told us to wait and observe them because they might just go away. Wishful thinking. So he said, come back in a year and we'll address it then. So I did, and I went back, and ultimately I ended up receiving a diagnosis of ADHD and a chronic tic disorder. I was referred to a neurologist, a psychologist. Yeah, I was really young, so I'm going off what my parents have told me. It's like the timeline of my medical history as well as what they tell me, because I was way too young. I was 3 years old. I don't remember any of this. I have very vague recollections. I do remember one of my first psychologists that I did see regularly. He helped me with a lot of my behavioral issues, both related to ADHD as well as Tourette's. But anyway, so another question, number two of the questions. What does a tic feel like? This is where my tics tend to act up because talking about it is a trigger. Fun fact, talking about tics and talking about your tics or triggers is a trigger itself, or can be. For me, it is. A tic feels like, okay, the first way that I would explain this is I want to explain something called the premonitory urge. So the premonitory urge is a feeling of tension or discomfort. It can be tingling, itching, it can feel like pressure building. It literally, just talking about it makes me uncomfortable because it's not a good feeling. So premonitory urge is the feeling of discomfort or tension that precedes a tic. The premonitory urge is the urge to tic. Ticking is what relieves this feeling, and it is a temporary relief. On my streams before, people have asked me, is it like the hiccups? I would actually relate ticking more to a sneeze than hiccups, just personally. Hiccups, I feel like I don't really know are coming. When I sneeze, you know how a sneeze is coming. Another analogy that I have used to explain what a tic feels like, I have just described it like an itch. When you get a mosquito bite and they tell you not to itch it, but then when someone tells you not to itch it, they suddenly feel more itchy. It's all you can think about. It's like, but it's really itchy. And it's like, well, don't think about it. And it's like, well, thanks. Now it's all I can think about. It's an itch that you really, really want to scratch. Like, you need to scratch, but you're trying not to. I don't like ticking in front of people. And the more that you try to resist scratching that itch, the bigger and more intense it becomes until you are crawling out of your skin. You need to itch, or in this case, you need to tick, because that feeling becomes so intolerable. So number 3, I get asked a lot if I currently take meds for Tourette's. I do not currently take any medication. I am treated for ADHD. I really don't want to take anything else. I was reluctant to take ADHD medication for the longest time. So I have been diagnosed with ADHD since I was about 4 years old. I did not start medication for ADHD until I was, I don't know, 20 or 21. So I went a long time without medication and it was not pretty. I have been extremely hesitant and extremely reluctant to try any Tourette's medications simply because my Tourette's and my tics tend to wax and wane. So I have had good times, I've had bad times, I've had kind of like in between. I do think my tics are worse right now, but I do also believe that the past few years have been extremely stressful, huge disruption to day-to-day life. I just think it's been a lot of stress, and I do notice that my tics have flared up especially badly in the past few years, but it's not something that I haven't dealt with at various points. So I'm hoping it'll just get better. My point is the hesitation with medication for Tourette's is that many of these medications have nasty side effects. And at least based on what I know and what I've heard is they only work for around maybe 50% of people. And I have to imagine that those might be the less severe cases. I've also done the cognitive behavioral therapy route of tic management, and some people find a lot of success with that route. I kind of feel like I didn't have much success at all. I don't know. It's just something I've been extremely hesitant on trying. I might reevaluate that at some point. I just don't know if that's the approach for me yet, or right now at least. Might change, but right now I do not currently take any meds. Raise my chair a little bit. Whee! How bright my phone is. Oh, I don't like that. Okay, here's another super duper popular question that I get quite a bit. And by quite a bit, I mean, I feel like every other 10 people ask this question. So I get asked a lot, Kali, can you drive? To which I say, yes, I can. I can drive, you guys. I got my license at 16 and I've been driving since. Now I do understand why people ask this question, because with involuntary movements, yeah, you'd wonder, how can you drive? How are you able to safely operate a motor vehicle? So for me personally, most of my tics tend to involve my face. I have a lot of facial motor tics. I have a lot of, head and neck tics. I would say a majority of my tics tend to affect this area of my body. I also have a lot of vocal tics. Anyway, when I'm driving, I do what I call like a partial suppression, and I limit my tics. Majority of my tics, like I said, affect my face or neck up. Those are not incompatible with driving. I have to be extremely mindful, but basically what I do is I limit my tics to regions that are not incompatible with driving. And this is a very clinical breakdown of it, so it's gonna sound like it's a lot more complex. It's gonna sound like it's a lot more intentional than it is. Basically, when you get right down to it, it's basically like, okay, Kali, do not tick your arms, do not tick your legs, and don't randomly jerk the wheel into oncoming traffic. That's about it. It's very basic. But if I had to break it down to explain it to people of what I am doing in order to drive, I think first of all, if you know anything about tics, focusing on something tends to help alleviate tics. Whether you are calm, relaxed, or extremely focused on something, tics will often temporarily diminish while you are occupied with something or while you are relaxed. So when I'm driving, I'm focused on driving. So I think that helps. I think that helps reduce my urge to tic. I also know that because I'm operating a vehicle, if I have some uncontrollable tic, it's going to be bad for me and many others. But majority of my tics when I'm driving, I do not have the urge to jerk my arms or legs. One of my main leg tics, it involves only my left foot, only my left leg, and that isn't compatible. I can't do it when I'm wearing shoes. When I'm driving and wearing shoes, I can't do that tic anyway, so the urge is it's almost like the urge is gone. When I wear boots or when I wear sneakers, I can't roll my ankle like I do. I should just wear a shoe 24/7, but then I'm gonna look like a weirdo, and also I don't want to wear my shoes in the house. But it temporarily reduces that urge because it's not compatible with what I'm doing. I know that might not make a lot of sense, but it makes sense to my brain, so it works. But as far as driving, I will allow myself micro tics, which is the smaller versions where I kind of get a little bit of relief. I don't get the full release of doing the full tic completely, but it's also something that I do often in public, and that's my own term. I term these my micro tics, because they are my tics, but they're lesser versions, which also perfectly caveats into another question that I get. is how do I do things like dentist appointments? Same thing. I limit my tics. I suppress them as much as I can, which I kind of do in public in general because, again, I don't like ticking in front of people. It is unavoidable to a certain extent. Like, I can't suppress forever. It's not an indefinite solution, but I can do it for a short amount of time in short bursts, depending on the day. Some days are worse, some days are better. Like I said, it varies, it fluctuates. But it's actually funny that I get this question so often because I actually had a dentist appointment today. So today, when I went to the dentist, when I'm in front of people, I'm suppressing very much. The moment that the hygienist left the room, I got some tics out because I'm left alone in the room. And then when she's working on me, whenever the dentist or the hygienist was poking around in my mouth, I have to suppress. There were a few times that I kind of did some little movements, maybe once or twice, where I really needed to get a tic out, and I kind of like let her know, like, I need a second, like if you kind of go, the dentist will assume that you're either choking on the water or whatever, because when I did that, she reached for the thirsty straw, the suction. But what I really needed was mainly just to move my head. Sphinx. So basically it's again, limiting my tics and actively trying to suppress them to a degree and basically suppressing them whenever there's anything pokey in my mouth. Oh, I get asked a lot why I say Sphinx now. I don't know. I think there's some confusion about vocal tics. Majority of my vocal tics are not words. Majority are sounds. I've had sniffling tics. I've had whatever that is. I've had coughing, throat clearing, sniffling, squeaking. I used to have this one where I would kind of go like, I've had barking tics throughout my life. Ow. There's that's an instance of a vocal tic that is not a word, but it's still a vocal tic. It's a vocalization. So some of the more complex vocal tics are words, and some are nonsensical, some are actual words that I've heard, and some are, as people probably most prevalently know, cussing tics. Those are less common. However, I have had swearing tics in my life, but pretty much I want to say all of them have been within the past like 4 years. I want to say 4-ish years. I don't remember if I had them previously before that. I am sharing my experience as someone who has a more intense presentation of symptoms. Just because I do have cussing tics does not mean that the majority of Tourette's cases do have and by the way, cussing tics are called coprolalia. I do have a few coprolalia tics. You will probably hear them at some point. Sphinx. I try to mutter them under my breath as much as I can. Not always feasible. They do slip out. And sometimes even when I whisper them, you can still hear them. So there is no significance to Sphinx, you guys. I don't know where my vocal tics come from. I do suspect that Sphinx probably came from, I have another vocal tic, Finks. And there are times that I get stuck in tic loops. And when I get stuck in a tic loop, I will often keep repeating the same tic because I'm not getting relief, and I have to keep doing it because I'm not getting that relief from that uncomfortable feeling. So I will often start saying like fink, finks, finks, sphinx, and you can kind of hear how finks, 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 sphinx, sphinx, finks. When you say it really fast, like if I got stuck in a tic loop, it starts becoming sphinx because it blends. Sphinx. I think it just blended and my brain heard sphinx and now I say sphinx. That's my only way of kind of describing it, because tics evolve, tics change throughout your life. I kind of consider my tics fluid. They don't just I feel like there's no abrupt stop. I think it's more like they evolve and change gradually, at least for me. So a lot of my tics that I get, they will change. And so it's very gradual. And so you don't always notice it happening until suddenly it's like, wait, when did I start doing this? Or wait, when did I stop doing that? There's been many tics that I have kind of cycled out that I didn't notice until months later. And I was like, wait, when did I stop doing that? I don't do that anymore. So it's weird. It's kind of hard to explain. And it's also hard to notice when it's happening because it's kind of just always happening. So another question I get, and I think this will be the last one for today's video, is do I tic in my sleep? Now, this is a harder question because I have previously said, no, I do not tic in my sleep. I've had tics since I was 3 years old, and no one in my family has ever noticed me ticking in my sleep. And I have read up on this as well, where they say that tics as you're falling asleep, and I've experienced this, tics as you're falling asleep, yeah, not only do they happen, they're likely to happen. I do tic as I'm getting sleepy, but I read that it is possible to tic while you're in light sleep, or I think REM stages of sleep. Then I've also read that in deep stages of sleep, you will not tic. So I don't believe that I tick while in deep sleep. Like, I read medical sources that are like, you know, while in deep sleep, you do not tick. But lighter stages of sleep, you might, but they are typically lessened or drastically reduced. Oh my goodness, my dog is here. Hello, Gracie. Hi, baby. Hello, sweet girl. Such a good girl. You're such a stinky little bean. Oh, the baby. Sorry, where was I? I don't think I tick while in deep sleep. Maybe I do to some degree when I'm in lighter stages of sleep. I don't recall if I've ever ticked myself awake. I know that some people have asked that as well. My general answer to this question has been, no, I don't tick in my sleep, but what I am referring to is deep sleep. I don't know about REM sleep, but no one has ever pointed out that I tick in any stage of sleep. So I don't know if I do or if it's just so slight that nobody like ever noticed, because I have pretty intrusive, prevalent, noticeable ticks while I am awake. So in comparison, any reduced level of ticking that I would do in my sleep probably wouldn't really register to my family even if I did, because it is drastically less than what I do day to day when I'm awake. I was reading up on this, which is why I kind of caveat to answer it a little differently here, but I don't believe I tick in my sleep. Is it possible I tick slightly in lighter stages of sleep? Absolutely, but I don't know because I'm not awake. I have thought about recording myself sleeping before. Might do that at some point. It's a little creepy. I don't know how I feel about that, but maybe I will. Sphinx. Maybe I'll have a better answer at some point. Gracie, you're licking very loudly. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but my dog is like licking her belly and it's making some grotesque noises. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate all the love and support as always. I'm really excited to be kicking off this vlogging podcasting series. I really hope that you guys are enjoying it so far. I hope that this helped clarify some of the questions that you guys might have. I know I get these questions so much while streaming, so I wanted to make a quick little FAQ video, and I don't think it ended up being very quick at all. This actually kind of ended up being longer than I intended, but that's okay. I will just be kicking myself later when I'm editing this, so future me is gonna want to kick current me's butt. But other than that, whatever, that's a future Kali problem. It's gonna be my problem. Please go ahead and give this video a thumbs up. It seriously helps me out so much. If you haven't already, please don't forget to subscribe. But thank you guys so much again for watching, and I will see you guys on the next one. Bye-bye. Slinks.